Hello again. I hope we're all getting the hang of switching the rooms by now. By 3 o'clock, you'll be pros. So thank you all so much for hanging in there with us. We're going to move to the next part of our agenda, our gap talk. So I have the pleasure today of speaking with someone that I have known for many years now and really respect in the field of Alzheimer's disease and caregiving. So today I have Dr. Whitney Warton, who is a cognitive neuroscientist who specializes in the prevention of Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. And she also is an associate director at Emory University. I would encourage you all to visit your Hoover app to learn more about her and some of the work that she's doing. But Dr. Wharton, if you are okay with it, do you mind just telling everyone a little bit about your research and some of the exciting things you're doing before we jump into our questions?
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mia. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful conference, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Whitney Warton, and I'm a cognitive neuroscientist by training, and I'm a clinical interventionist in the space of Alzheimer's disease prevention. I'm associate professor at Emory University in Atlanta, and I design lifestyle, pharmaceutical, and longitudinal observational studies in individuals who are currently cognitively normal but at risk for Alzheimer's disease due to a couple of different things depending on the study. So we have an overrepresentation of Black and African American individuals. We primarily enroll women and also now the LGBTQIA community. And what we're interested in doing is understanding the biological contribution to Alzheimer's disease in conjunction with social determinants of health. And then based on that information, we again design, lifestyle and pharmaceutical interventions so that we can combat Alzheimer's disease and prevent it so that we don't have to worry about getting those plaques and tangles out of the brain later. So thank you so much again for having me, and I welcome your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, I've known you for a while, and one thing that I must tell the group is that you are very embedded in the community. So if you go out to a health fair or an event, you see Dr. Wharton really trying to connect with the community she wants to serve. So I really respect that, and I appreciate that as well.
Thank
So
you.
my first question for you today is, are there specific biological, environmental, or social factors that would put the LGBTQIA plus community in a more vulnerable state when we're talking about Alzheimer's disease?
That's a great question. So, unfortunately, we know very little about biological markers as it stands now. We have a grant that we're going to be submitting, two grants actually, two grant applications. So hopefully, we'll be able to talk more about the downstream biological impact for the specific community that is at risk for Alzheimer's disease. But what we know right now in regard to the LGBTQIA community, particularly as it pertains to caregiving, is that it's actually not dissimilar to what we have learned studying other underrepresented and minoritized groups, including African Americans, women, family caregivers, the Hispanic community, such that we have, more limited access to resources.
Mhm.
And in regard specifically to caregiving, the LGBTQIA caregiving community is unique because we have some unique unmet needs.
Right.
And, that includes access to LGBTQIA friendly resources, being able to, provide those resources to the LGBTQIA caregiver in the face of, systemic lifetime discrimination, what we might need, making sure that our resources are LGBTQIA friendly, everything from, ambulance services to particularly hospice, Oftentimes when we have if we're caring for our parent, for instance, we'll have our parent come into our home. And if that parent might not necessarily be, accepting of our life and potentially our partners, our children, then that can add some, additional stress. And so I'm interested in the social determinants of health as they pertain to the LGBTQIA community, and then subsequently, the downstream ramifications of sustained, increased levels of stress. And because we really don't know what all of this stress does, regardless of the community that you're talking about, whether it be African Americans or women or the LGBTQIA community, there are real physiological and clinically relevant downstream ramifications like increased blood pressure, increased inflammation, access to resources. And so we're trying to go more upstream and then subsequently figure out what these physiological impacts on health and healthcare really are.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know we don't have a lot of time today. As I said, you are a thought leader in this. So I do encourage people, if they have more questions or they're really interested in your work, to reach out. But I do want to see if we can squeeze in one question regarding hormones. The question is, what do you see as the next step in research on the role of sex hormones in Alzheimer's disease? And are there any new areas of focus? Also, if you have time to comment on women and hormonal changes in life and how that impacts their um, brain health, I would love for you to speak on that if you could.
Sure, for sure. So I could probably talk about this for like like a really, really long time. So I'll try to keep this like very succinct. But so what we know is that women are more at risk for Alzheimer's disease compared to men. And that's not necessarily just because women live longer, because age is the primary risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. But where I see this, especially with women, is sort of like a two bucket increased risk system. So one, we have, the physiological differences in biological women. And then second, we have the lived experience of being a woman, which is different than being a man.
Mhm.
So quickly, the lived experience, we're less likely to be in the paid workforce. When we do, we don't make as much money. And women are more likely to be lifelong caregivers
Yeah.
compared to men. So, we care for our children, we care for our church congregants, we care for our community, we care for our ailing parents as they get older. And that really caregiving tends to traditionally, not always, but traditionally be more of a woman's role than a man. One reason is that we're really good at it. We're really good at multitasking. But the caregiving aspect, we just tend to take on, and this is particularly relevant in the African American community,
Mhm.
because the most common caregiver in the African American community for someone with Alzheimer's disease is the eldest daughter.
Mm.
So what that means, if you think of the eldest daughter, maybe between the ages of 45 and 55, there's a lot going on with that woman.
Yeah.
She might probably still working. She might definitely have children at home. If they're not at home, children that she's probably definitely supporting financially that might have moved, might have now be out of the home. But now we have these sort of dueling, caregiver roles. And then also dumping into the other side of the bucket, the hormonal change.
Mhm.
Women during the 50, 55-ish years of age is when women are going through the menopausal transition.
Right.
That can be anywhere from like 2 years to like, 10 years. And these hormonal changes, we think, number one, contribute to Alzheimer's disease, the depletion in a specific type of estrogen called estradiol. And then also just when we're going through menopause, there's just a lot of stuff. I think I had a hot flash right before I walked in this morning. For sure, the night sweats are real. All of these things that happen to a woman's body. She's experiencing all of these things physiologically when we are adding on all of these additional caregiving roles. So it just gets, a little bit, we have all of those sort of added stressors, which again are independent risk factors for Alzheimer's disease.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. I'm thinking now we should have given you like an hour to talk about that because it is so interesting. And when we do work in this field, we focus on inclusivity. And sometimes we just need to remember to drill down to gender as well, because that has an impact on, as you said, stress factors and how people will seek out resources. So we really do thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them at some point throughout the day and share them back with Dr. Wharton. But thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you so much. That was super quick. And my team and I are super collaborative. And as Mia alluded to earlier, we only rely on recruitment for our studies based on community-based participatory research. So I don't recruit from clinic. I don't recruit from the hospitals. We go out into the community on the reg. So if there's anything that I can do to be of service, or if there's a talk that someone needs or a resource that someone needs, we are here. And, I can put my contact information in the chat. I think it might be on the online situation, but anything that we can do to help, we are in the community every single week. So more than happy to help. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate you. All right. So I know we are moving along really fast today. We have our next two sessions. So feel free to leave this room, go visit the Hoover app, and log into your next session. Thank you.